Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Rob the Savage checking in, going on for a heavy bench day today. Basically, what I do first is I stretch up, warm my rotator cuffs, get my rear delts warmed up, my front delts warmed up, chest, and even warm my legs as well, hips as well. Because I do use a lot of hip drive too when I get a heavier weight. Now, basically, when I get onto the bar, I work my grip and see which grip is going to be basically working best for me for my shoulders. I do have a couple shoulder injuries, so I do work my progression up slowly, and then I work on my explosions, as you see here. So basically, just getting the explosiveness part of the rep, pushing it and driving it through, and trying to explode up off the bench. That way, I can get a lot of power going through from my legs to my chest to my triceps all the way up through the bar and work that way up. Now, normally I work out with a partner, so slapping on 45s doesn't really take as long, and my rest time is usually shorter. But slapping on all those 45s, it gives me enough time to get in, catch my breath a little bit, get started. So we do the same thing with the second warm-up progression, trying to figure out how my shoulders feel and which which way my hand grip is gonna be best for me for the day. It varies sometimes. Sometimes I do a wider grip, sometimes a closer. Just really all depends on how my shoulders are feeling today. Now today my left shoulder was aching some, and I warmed it up pretty good. I didn't feel any kind of like pain in it that was gonna stop me from benching. So I did more of a wider grip. I had my pinkies on usually there's a circle on the bar. Sometimes bars don't have them, but with my bar, my pinky is on the outer circle ring. It kind of gives me a good idea of where I want to keep the bench at. And most of the time for the meets, they're usually in the same spot. So now here's my first working set. Warmed up to 405. Normally I don't really count the reps that I do for my warm up. I just kind of warm up whatever feels best. So to get started here, we did 5 sets of 2. Now 405 is not really heavy for me, but I am just coming off a meet again, so I'm working up. I'm pretty sure I could have done more reps with 405. It's not really a problem for me to do that much weight. Now here in this next set, I went with a little wider grip. I had my brother spot me just in case my shoulder gave out. And as you can see, I'm doing a lot of leg drive here. So basically doing a transfer of the motion from my legs to my chest, all the way up to my triceps. Now, with any other shoulder injury, I do recommend going to see a doctor and to see him if you need to actually be cleared to do any work. You want to basically progress up using your band work to rehab it. Once you're done rehabbing it, then you can basically get into more weight. And then when you start off, is doing machines are probably better for you in a sense of starting up. And then working up to free weights. It's all progression. You don't want to overdo it. Just take your time when you're doing rehab, and that's basically what's going to get you back in the game. Now moving on here, I went to close grip bench. I believe this was 435, that's 405, 415, 425. Doing some close grip work, basically working the triceps, getting the heavy movement. So basically working as many reps as I can to basically get more strength added to my triceps to be able to handle a heavier workload. Now you want to be careful where you put your hands at. It's going to give you a lot of stress on your wrist if you don't have the right kind of hand placement for your body. I normally like to get it to where it's just right outside of my chest, which gives me enough to use my triceps and my chest at the same time to kind of work this movement. I don't need to go any closer than that because it gives me a lot of strain on my wrist, and it hurts a lot more than it should when trying to do this movement. It's all personal preference anyway, by the way, for your own body. That second set was way easier than the first one. Now moving on here, we went into 1-inch pause from the chest. So stopping right before hitting the chest. Normally you see dudes in the gym do it like this already because they can't handle the weight and touch the chest in the first place. I'm stopping on purpose to put more strain on my chest and basically build more strength in there in doing so. Basically working from the pause and pressing up. After getting in some of the bench work, I normally either do some flies or some incline, but moving next on, I did some shoulder work because my shoulders do need work in more of the strength aspect because I do feel like they are weaker, which is due to some football injuries. Having some strain done doing some tackles, man, has really put a damper in my shoulders, and any kind of shoulder or overhead press movement for me now. And later on, which is 26, doing those in the early years. That shoulder work is really beneficial for your bench, especially for your front delts. It seems like I'm swinging here, but I have full control over the weight when I move it up. It's just that these dumbbells were really light for me. I probably should have went heavier, but I'd already worked my front delts doing the bench enough. I figured the lightweight would be more better for the pump. The pump was the main thing that I was looking for here. So doing the side laterals, getting some more of the pump, the blood flow in there, building some strength up there in the medial delt as well. So doing these with a superset. At the end of it, I did 3 sets of these, 3 sets to 10 to 15 reps. So you could do as many as you like. Sometimes I do 15, 20, 30 reps with a certain weight. It doesn't really matter about what weight you use. It just matters how you use it. And when you effectively do a exercise properly and you're working out how you're supposed to be, you get the most gains out of it. It doesn't matter what weight you really use, depending on what kind of aspect you're doing. If you're doing bodybuilding, the weight really doesn't matter. But then powerlifting, heavier weight does matter, mainly on your compound movements. Now, after doing all that, you can do as much of the accessory work as you want to. I do what I need to do that's better for my body type. Some other people might have different advice for you to do to work that out. So for here, I'm working out my forearms as well, but I'm also working my grip. And I'm doing single finger movements at the time, squeezing with my fingers. Just my fingers alone, on both sides of the hand. So when I get down to my pinky and my ring finger, I use both. It's hard to try to squeeze with just a pinky using a 10 and a 5. Even doing that without any weight is still somewhat difficult, but I wanted to get a good squeeze, so using both of those fingers was more beneficial to me. Straight superset for more forearms. Working the other side of the forearm here, doing a reverse curl, if you will, for forearms. And this is basically going to help me fatigue my forearms and get the most pump out of it, to help me build not only my grip, but also build more of an aesthetic look for my entire body as well, to help complete my arm look. And after I was done with doing the finger only, I did a couple sets of those. I went into full hand squeeze of the forearms, basically making sure that I get a really good squeeze in my forearms and get a good squeeze and controlling my grip as well. So extending my fingers out all the way and squeezing all the way at the top. And most people usually just kind of jerk the forearm movement around and just kind of like squeeze their hands into a violent movement. That's not really mainly what this is for. I mean, it does work sometimes when you're doing a heavier weight. You see that and how it give you more strength. But at the same time, when you're talking about grip, you're not clasping your hands together to try to grip something. You got one grip on there for as long as you can. You gotta hold it together. So there's no point in trying to just slap the weights together. You bring the fingers down, you extend the hand so it gets a good stretch for it, and then you bring it up and squeeze. So that way it gives you the best benefit to get the strength out of there as well. Now here again, I'm doing another superset with these reverse wrist curls. So that way I can get more pump in there and kind of fatigue the forearm and basically make it grow some more as well to give me more strength. Alright, so getting closer to the end of the training, moving on to triceps, which is another big movement for your gains for bench. If you want to have more of an aesthetic pleasing arm, you got to add the triceps in. Triceps account for 2/3 of your arm, so that's another big thing. Now, also doing close grip, that's going to add mass to it as well. So basically what I'm working here is adding a sculpting movement to there. There's another accessory work. So when I get started, I basically fill out the weight. I get a good pump, a good squeeze, make sure it's really forced in there, force our blood in there. Then I go for a pump movement. So not only do I do work in full range of motion, I do get in my pump work that basically gets more blood into the muscle. And with triceps or arms in general, triceps and biceps, you want to pump blood into the arm. Pumping blood into it is what's going to give you the bigger appearance and make you look more massive. Alright, after doing a couple more sets, last set is not really, this stack that I have here is not really that heavy for me. So I did do the full stack. Now, in any case, if it's any kind of an equipment that you use and you feel like it's not heavy enough, the more beneficial way for me to get my work done is to do more reps. Now, with this closing off, it was like 3 or 4 sets. of doing some heavy weight. You gotta get the pump in, full range of motion, squeeze, make sure you're squeezing the tricep, and then I go for the pump action again, like I said as well. Now, with this being my last set, I did it till my arms basically fatigued. Not basically to failure, but then I also still move my arms the next day. You're still getting the pump in for today. Now, what I also did was just switch my hand movement and switch it around to lighten the weight and add a little more pump in there, trying to force more blood into the tricep and make it grow as well. One thing that I've also incorporated into my workouts now, or I have been, but trying to do that more than most, is do some more abs. I did work a little bit of abs before the workout. Also walked a little bit for my stretching. Walked incline, stretched with the band. This is all accessory work that you do to help benefit you for your workouts. Now, the ab work, I'm doing a heavy, full stack, heavy weight. So that way I'm building strength in the abs as well and sculpting them. Some people don't like to do this because they don't want to build big bulgy abs, but to me, it's more strength in my core, more strength for my lifts overall together. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, BadBiz0739. You can also follow me on Instagram at Savage from the Wild Boys with a Z. You can also follow me on Meerkat, Wild Boys Savage. And then the same handle over there on Twitter, Wild Boy Savage, the Incredible Hulk. Thank you guys for watching. Now get out there, crush the mind, get out of your comfort zone, let go of all your worries, and just live your life.